Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws, does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got it!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, welcome into Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. I'm your temporary host, JTP, John the producer, as we wait for Jim Coyle to join us from Albany, New York. With us, as always, Mr. Dustin Schutte, and as his name says today, I don't know if he recognizes it, Dustin Foodie from Outsider.com. Dustin, do you remember when you made that name on your phone StreamYard account?
Yeah, it was about 12 seconds ago.
Oh, so you did? I thought that was a default from when you used your phone most recently.
No, I just decided, I was like, you know what? It's the Thursday of March Madness. It's going to get a little crazy in here. I decided I would change my name because I put this out on Twitter, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago. Somebody tagged me in a debate, I guess you could say. I don't remember what the food debate was about, but they said basically, if you're going to get into a food or sports debate or food/sports debate, you gotta include Dustin Schutte. And I said I should just change my name to Dustin Foodie. And
that's amazing.
So I decided to let that stick for today. Have a little fun. And I can't see, since we're having some technical difficulties on my end, traveling and whatnot. I can't see your comments today, so feel free to make fun of me as much as you want. I can't see any of it.
Well, here's a good one already from Jim Harbaugh. It's the Alvin and Nickelback show. I'm excited for the shenanigans. So apparently you're Alvin.
Yeah, because I had that A hat, that my Atlanta Braves hat.
I forgot about that.
I remember that. That was a good. And I think I had I was wearing the Atlanta Braves shirt, which is just the giant A. Which, by the way, way too many people, right? Like I've been in the South since 2016, way too many people stake that Atlanta Braves A for the Alabama A, which I get. They're very similar logos. But for those that may not know, the Alabama A has a mullet at the top. That little mullet. The other thing is there is not a single shade of blue in Alabama's team colors. So if it's blue, which most of my Braves gear is, it's the Atlanta Braves, not the Alabama Crimson Tide. So please stop yelling "Roll Tide" at me when I'm walking on the sidewalk with Atlanta Braves gear.
I guess some people just think it's an alternate color, which doesn't make any sense regardless. I don't know why anyone else would think that it's an Alabama jersey or hat or whatever.
I don't either. Like you would think the blue would be a dead giveaway. Like I've seen some teams that will, maybe like there's an alternate color. Like you'll see an Indiana black, like a black Indiana shirt. You'll see for St. Patrick's Day, some might go green, or for breast cancer awareness, there might be a pink. But typically, you're not just going to have a random like blue color for your team.
Yeah, unless you're Kane Womack. With him, obviously he's not with Indiana anymore, but the former defensive coordinator used to wear the baby blues.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that. Was there a reason for that? Did he just like baby blue?
It was in honor of a former coach who did it for, I can't remember what the reason was for, though.
Okay,
He took after that.
Okay, that makes sense. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, so shout out Kane Womack, and I believe he's still in South Alabama. So, anyway, we have March Madness to talk about. The last two of the first four games took place last night. Fairleigh Dickinson defeated Texas Southern 84-61, and man, the Arizona State Sun Devils demolished Steve Alford and the Nevada Wolfpack. A lot of I got to say something real quick before we, we don't really have analysis before we dive into more March Madness stuff. The Mountain West is a cult. Coming into every conference tournament or NCAA tournament, for some reason, the group of five conference that everybody's always like, oh, watch out for these guys. It's the Mountain West, and they never do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And remember, we talked with Mike DeCourcy, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw, I did tweet out his nickname because we had been talking about potentially, Mike Brackets or Mikey Brackets or something, and he didn't want any part of anything related to Joe Lenardi. So I sent out Mike DeCourtside. I feel like that's really good. To pat myself on the back for that one. Mike DeCourtside is how we will introduce him, how I will talk about him on this show from now on. But he said when we talked to him on Tuesday about Rutgers not getting in, Nevada didn't do squat to earn a spot in the NCAA tournament. And I think you saw that last night because they didn't play well. That game wasn't close at all. From the opening tip-off, they didn't really stand much of a chance. So I agree with you where there's always one, maybe there's a couple teams out there each year where you're like, I mean, it's kind of like Gonzaga, right? Like Gonzaga's way better. They get national players. But at the same time, they're really hard to judge because for a majority of the season, they really don't play anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things where when you think about the fact that Steve Alford's there, he's not one of those coaches that are having like a redemption story, like Shaka Smart is at Marquette kind of thing. Because obviously he had his come up at New Mexico. He got his big break at UCLA. That didn't work out. He tried to get his feet back on the ground at Nevada. And not that he had a bad season, but he's never been able to get it done in March. Honestly, very similar to Tom Crean, other than when Tom Crean was at Marquette. So I'm pretty sure.
Crean had Dwayne Wade, so that helps.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, Steve Alford had plenty of good players too. He had Lonzo Ball. Not that he ever amounted to anything in the NBA or anything, I guess, but everybody always remembers. Can you imagine even dealing with that in the Big Baller brand and his dad? I mean, that just sounds like a whole nother world of something.
You talk about like helicopter parents, and dear Lord, I mean, that dude, talk about a snowplow parent, just moving all of the stuff out of the way. So all his kid has to, I mean, to his credit, now, I don't know if I should say to his credit or not, but to his credit, he is supportive of his kids. And sometimes some of these stories, not every basketball player, football player, not every person, I should say, has that. So as annoying as it is, you have to give him credit because he at least supports his kids and is 100% behind them, believes in them. So he might be irritating. He might be, over the top. I get it. But at the same time, like there are a lot of kids that would probably trade to have that. Now, I don't know about their upbringing and what that might have been like. So you never know full. But in terms of just believing in his kids, like that's something I think he should at least get some credit or a lot of credit for. All
right, Dustin, have you filled out any brackets yet this year?
Oh, of course.
Okay, of course you have. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through today's matchups. And if you can remember, you can either pull up your bracket or not. Tell me who you have. I'll tell you who I have. And if we have a disagreement, we can try to figure out why we disagree with each other. All right. So today's first game, West Virginia versus Maryland. Who do you got?
I'm taking West Virginia because Maryland is so bad away from the Xfinity Center.
That's a great reason. I took Maryland mainly just because I felt like West Virginia was overrated in the net rankings and they're just too high seeded.
That's true. And we might talk about this a little bit later, but a part of me really wants the Big 12 to fall flat on their face. And then I will mock Jim on this show for talking about how good the Big 12 was all season long.
I guess it's just a curse to be the best conference in the regular season because you either always fail or everybody wants you to fail, one or the other. So we'll see. Next up, a popular upset pick, at least by the talking heads, Furman versus Virginia.
Yeah, I'm going Virginia on that one. But the way they play is kind of like Wisconsin. Like they can beat anybody, they can lose to anybody.
Yeah, I've got Virginia as well. I feel like every year people expect Virginia to get upset. It's just the way that they play, and I get it. They're very prone to being upset. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't think it will this year, but we'll see. Next up, Utah State against Missouri, a 10 versus a 7.
Pretty sure I had Missouri. Not sure why, but I just picked them.
I took Utah State. I don't know why. Again, know nothing about either team. Just decided to go with the Aggies on that one. Another one that should be, unless you're just in rare form when you're making your brackets. 16 Howard versus 1 Kansas.
Yep, Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas is an easy one. Another one, number 16 Corpus Christi versus Alabama. I'm sure you have Alabama.
Yep.
Yeah. Another 12-5 Charleston versus San Diego State.
I picked College of Charleston in that one. They are a really good team. Nobody really talked about them all season. I feel like this could be, we don't talk about the 12-5 being like a big upset because a couple of them happen, seems like every year, but that could be one that's sneaky.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Charleston winning this one. I actually have Charleston going all the way out to the Sweet 16. That means I have them upsetting Virginia in the round of 32. So
not crazy.
We'll see how that works. That's my biggest, I guess, upset of the entire tournament because I don't have any other seed that high making it that far.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we've seen 15 seeds make it to the Elite Eight, so who the hell knows what will happen. So we'll see. 15 Princeton versus number 2 Arizona. Yeah, I don't see that one happening either. Let's see what we got here. Okay. That was just a message from Jim. He'll be on shortly. Next up, we've got, I don't know if I said I agree with you with Arizona, but I think I'd be dumb not to. Next up, we've got Illinois versus Arkansas, an 8-9 game.
I went back and forth on this one. I think I picked Arkansas because I think they're a little bit more trustworthy than Illinois has been this season.
Yeah, I went with Arkansas as well. I think Illinois should be the better team, but like you said, they're just not consistent enough. Really, there's a lot of teams in the Big Ten that just aren't consistent enough, I feel like, this year.
The entire league is not consistent.
Top to bottom. I mean, even Purdue, as good as they are, I mean, they've had too many games where they either should have already taken care of business or they just didn't win outright. So
right.
It is what it is. Another 8-9 game, Auburn and Iowa.
I took Auburn in that one.
I took Iowa. In Iowa, even though they're a Big Ten team, obviously, and they have the inconsistency problems like everybody else, Iowa's going to live and die by their offense. And that's exactly, I just think that this is the game they're going to be fine on. And last year they got bounced early against Richmond. I don't think they can get bounced early again. Or obviously they don't want to. And I think the Frantics will be on full swing this afternoon.
I think so too, but I mean, it's just so hard for your offense to travel in these situations. Like, I agree with you. Iowa, if this was maybe a home game, I would pick the Hawkeyes, but the fact that it's neutral site, they've had trouble shooting in these tournaments before. And again, I can't get over the fact that Fran has never been to the Sweet 16. This will be the year they end up getting to the Elite Eight or something.
I mean, they could. I mean, not that Houston is supposed to be some world beater, but they're definitely the most beatable 1 seed, I would say, even though they're the second highest ranked 1 seed. Right. If anybody's going to go down first, I feel like most people are chalking it up to Houston just because of the league that they're in. They're kind of like this year's Gonzaga almost.
I feel like Houston might be the worst number 1 seed, but I think Purdue is going to be the first 1 seed to fall. They could go down in the round of 32. I think Memphis and FAU could give them fits. That second round is going to be a problem.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll take a look at more of these games later. It looks like the man, the myth, the legend, Jim Coyle is logging on. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. Thanks for sticking with us for. I wish I had that sounder that I said I wanted to get for us from the Bob Knight golf video.
Yes,
that's an Emmy winner. We need to get that for next time we have to do one of these. So, thanks for listening to this John and JTP and Dustin Schutte show, or should I say Dustin Foodie? Again, you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. This segment, BB's Market. We'll be back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Here, let me disconnect my headphones really quick and see if the
sound. Fine. Sure. You hear us, Jimbo?
Oh yeah.
It's not any better, is it? Does it sound the exact same?
It's not that it's not really better or worse. It just kind of sounds a little different.
Okay. Well,
it's whatever you prefer to do.
It doesn't matter to me.
It's
Actually, it might be a little quieter for some reason.
Are you in a hotel?
Yeah.
Let me try something. Say something else, Dustin.
Here I am on the road again.
Let me see. I'm just trying to adjust your volume on my end. Do one more time.
It just sounds. It just doesn't have. It's like it's. It's hard to explain.
Hold on, Dustin. Do something real quick.
It's hard to explain.
All right,
Hard
one
to
more.
explain.
And now I've got you at max volume on StreamYard. Go ahead.
It sounds like you're monotone.
Well, I am pretty monotone because it's like 8.
It's actually
even
not
9.
bad. We can try this segment, and then we can decide which was better after this. All right, Jim, quick question. I know I saw the text you sent me. I need to make sure I've got the right email.
Okay, is that my connection cutting out or yours?
It's yours because you sound just fine to me.
Okay, I'm on my phone, by the way.
Yeah, I think you're delayed.
Okay.
Yeah, he definitely is.
Michael Lewis is joining us around 9.
I know. I was just trying to ask about that.
Did you get that, John?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Fuck.
Oh boy.
John, did you get that message?
Yes, I did. I'm just gonna text him. He can't hear me.
I can hear you. I heard that.
Okay.
Oh
Can
boy.
you see out that?
I can't. Can you hear us? Or are you back? I just want to make sure I don't want to have to come into this segment and us have bad connection if we're.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I guess maybe it was just a little glitch. I just sent you a text. Let me make sure I've got Michael Lewis's email because I'm. I don't know why it's not showing up. Someone just emailed or sent me something. All right, here we go, guys. Jim, if you can, I don't even know if he's with us right now. Now that I'm looking at him,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Send me Michael Lewis's email because I'm not finding it in my information. If I can find it though, I'll let you know. All right, here we go.
Charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant.
Oh my God.
Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and step in here since it seems like we're still having some issues with Jim. I'll keep an eye on his little talking head as we wait to make sure that he's still all right.
I like that it's talking head.
I know I've used that term twice now today. That and people say pundits. I feel like pundit is a very evil word, though.
It does. It does sound pretty maniacal. Like
it does.
It's like a media member, and then all of a sudden it's like pundit. The pundit, because I feel like you never use that word when you're talking positively, right? Like
at least I feel like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like
I don't know if you've seen Ted Lasso, Dustin, but
I've seen one episode.
Okay, well, in the second season, one of the characters, he retires in the first season, and he joins the media team or whatever, and I guess over in England they casually call people who do that pundits because they use that word all the time in that show when they're talking about the people who are on the media or whatever, they're the anchors and stuff like that. And so maybe it's not a derogatory term over there. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't matter. I just thought it was an interesting little tidbit. But while we are waiting for either Jim to get connected or Michael Lewis to join us, which would also be helpful if I would find that email. See, isn't it great doing live radio and doing all these things at once sometimes?
It's a peek
your
behind
hands
the curtain. It's a peek
It is a
behind
peek
the
behind the
curtain, John.
curtain. But the next game we were going to talk about, we were going to choose was another 12-5, Oral Roberts and Duke.
Yeah, see, a lot of people have said that Oral Roberts is pretty good, and I can't say anything because I haven't watched them this season. So I guess them upsetting Duke wouldn't be surprising, but I feel like Duke got better as the season went along. So I went ahead and I picked Duke to win that game, but apparently keep an eye on that one because that could be another 12-5 upset.
Yeah, that seems like a popular pick for some reason. One thing to keep an eye on too, though, is Duke is playing their best basketball at the moment. But at the same time, we've seen teams that have been doing that, and I think Iowa last season is a great example.
Yes.
A team that was really hot going into the tournament that ended up fizzling out in the first round.
Yep. That's a great comparison right there. Because
so there's really no way to truly gauge anything. It's all guessing. It's all just a load of garbage is what it is.
It is. Because it's all about matchups. And then, I mean, it's so difficult because you got to get – this sounds so stupid. I hate saying this. But it's all about shot making, right? Like if the shots aren't going in, you're not going to win. And especially if you're a team like – I hate to keep bringing it up, but they're the best example I got because I watched the Big Ten all season. But if you're a team like Iowa and you got no defense, then if your shots aren't falling, you're going home because they can't defend a lick. So I think Duke is a much better defensive team, and so I feel like they're going to win this game. But I mean, all it takes is if shots aren't falling, that's all it takes.
That's true. We're going to bring in our friend Matt Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. Matt, I'm sure you didn't expect to see my beautiful face today, did you?
I did not, but it's unexpected but welcome. It's like, when you get chocolate in your ice cream and you just thought you were buying vanilla, right? Unexpected but welcome, John. Let's go.
Let's go. It's interesting. Go ahead, Dustin.
Hold on, Matt. It's 2023. Who is buying just vanilla ice cream?
Well, it's like, like you think you're buying vanilla ice cream, but instead you buy chocolate chip. Like it looks like vanilla ice cream, but you pop it open and then boom, there's chocolate chip. Like it's double your dough right there.
There you go. I like it.
There we go. Yeah.
Happy accident.
It is a happy accident. Old Jimbo, he is with us. He's having a little bit of minor difficulties getting connected out in Albany, New York.
That shocks me. That shocks
me. Exactly.
That Jim is having trouble doing something. That's really surprising. That's not unexpected.
There we go. But yeah, so obviously you're our Colts guy. We're talking all things March Madness. How do we combine the worlds of the Indianapolis Colts and March Madness? What is it that you're focused on whenever you have two things? Because obviously you're familiar with everything that goes on and what people love in Indiana, and that's college basketball. You're familiar with that balance. How do you keep that balance while you keep tracking of all the offseason moves for Indianapolis?
Well, it's really hard. It's really unfortunate this week that these weeks have to coincide because you do have, like today and tomorrow, arguably, right, the greatest sports days of the year. Because of all of the games going on, and it's like the multiple screen day, and you love to just sit there and veg out and watch college basketball. But this is the first week of NFL free agency, so like that's going on in the backdrop of all of these college basketball games, all the moving, the wheeling, and the dealing, and the trades, and the new league year started yesterday at 4:00, and that's when all these deals have become official. Then you had the legal tampering period on Monday, so it's tough. I mean, we had. We're going to have free agents coming in and out of the building this week and doing interviews with those guys and talking to some of the new coaches on the coaching staff this week for the Colts. So it is probably, I would say, draft this week and then combine week, the three busiest weeks of the offseason in terms of content and tracking things in the NFL. It's unfortunate just as a casual sports fan that this week coincides with the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. So, I'll still obviously watch it and keep track of everything and be a fan, but I just wish that they were staggered a little bit so I could be more of a basketball fan this week than I am tracking things, contractually and business-wise in the NFL.
It looks like our old buddy Jim Coyle is back with us. Jim, you got us.
I hope so. We have
great.
a echo.
We can eliminate that. We can do our best.
Easily. And I heard everything that Matt Taylor said.
What's up?
He was shocked. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. Are you like in a dorm room in New Albany or Albany, New York?
Yes, basically. Here, tucked away in a corner of the snow, with a little spot where we've got to clear it out. Just kidding. How are you doing, man?
Is it a really bad snowstorm up there?
No, that was. They had one.
There you go.
But we're good. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. Like I said, tracking football and basketball this week.
Don't interrupt the conversation. Keep it going. You guys are going great.
Well, I was going to ask Matt. This had nothing to do with the NFL, but do you have a favorite March Madness moment, whether it's recent or when you were growing up?
Great question. I think it's probably just being a kid and coming home from school and, like growing up in Indianapolis and going to a grade school here in the city, like you would always have that teacher, like that middle school teacher that was really cool that would have the games on, like during homeroom or like social studies class or something. And inevitably you'd have a teacher that was, a Butler grad or a Purdue grad or a Ball State grad or an IU grad. And one of those teams would be playing and they would just shut down class and we would just watch basketball for 50 minutes. So that was always fun. I also too have a hot take when it comes to the NCAA tournament. And this again probably goes back to my kid fandom. Can we please go back to NCAA tournament games being played on courts that are indigenous to their arena?
Yes.
Like that was always the best part, or one of the best parts for me, is you knew where the game was being played based on the court that you saw on television. Now all of these courts, outside of like a little bit of a color here or there, they all look the same. You have no idea where these games are. I loved when you had Duke in Indiana playing at Kentucky, and you had UK, that big UK logo in the middle of the court. I just thought that was really, really good. It's like the All-Star game, when you have all the different players wearing their team's uniform in the game instead of the AL uniform or the NL uniform. Can we please go back to the indigenous courts in the NCAA tournament?
And to that point, Matt, I feel like we've got a problem in society, right? In sports society, where it just becomes so uniform. The March Madness logo, it's the same for every stinking court. And I hate to take a shot at the NFL, but the Super Bowl logo, those used to change every single year. And now it's just a standard uniform that they do every single year. So I completely agree with you on that. And one of the memories that I always remember running off the bus and doing kind of the same thing, like just getting in front of the TV, watching those games. But the one memory I have better than any was my family and I were on vacation. I'm pretty sure we were at Disney World. I know we were on vacation in a hotel room when Bryce Drew hit that shot to beat Ole Miss. And I had no ties to Valpo, but because they were in Indiana school, I remember all of us just jumping on the bed. Like we could not have cared less if Valpo won that game or not, but it was just such a monumental moment, such a big shot that's the one memory I have that sticks out better than any.
What was that, like 1995, 1996?
Somewhere around there. Yeah, mid to late 90s, somewhere in there. I thought it was 98, but maybe it was earlier.
Yeah, I'll look it up on the fly here, but I'm with you. I mean, that was always, I remember being like 10, 11, 12 years old when that happened and not even knowing where Valparaiso was, but like you, I knew it was somewhere in Indiana. And yeah, you just adopted them. And that, like Gonzaga, remember when Gonzaga made their run the first time in the late 90s? And you're thinking, oh, who is this tiny school from the Northwest? This little sleepy school from wherever named Gonzaga. Nobody back then even knew how to pronounce it. Like, are we saying that right? Gonzaga, or is that right? I mean, and now here they are. I mean, now they're Gonzaga, right? They're one of the best programs in the country. And that's what the NCAA, remember the Florida Atlantic a couple years ago. Then you had George Mason here in the Final Four in Indianapolis a couple years ago. That's what this time of year is. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but like with class sports in Indiana, which I'm not being critical of, I 1000% think that's the right thing to do, because the IHSAA is an association. They have to serve their members, and their members wanted the tournament. They wanted it to be a class system, to have more kids be involved, play longer, be on teams longer. And so from that standpoint, it completely makes sense. Now, the byproduct of that as fans is that I couldn't tell you who won the 2A state championship in boys basketball 2 years ago. Like, I have no idea. But I think that's what's special about the NCAA tournament is, like, I'm pretty good on the Final Fours. I'm pretty good on the national championship games from the last couple of years. But obviously, the longer these Cinderella teams go, the more you remember them, and the more they become, sort of synonymous with their runs in men's basketball, like St. Petersburg last year, beating Purdue, going to the Elite Eight. I mean, that's just fun. Like, that's just what this tournament is all about. And you just hope the team that you root for doesn't get in the way of a Cinderella like that.
Right. And I wanted to ask, not to completely shift focus here, Matt, but I don't know if you went to a bigger school in Indiana or a smaller school, but to that point about the class system, this drives me nuts still. But to me, the fun thing was when I was a kid, our team, small school, and we had a couple big schools in our sectional. And in the late 90s, we finally got over the hump and we won the sectional. A few years later, our team was really good. We had one of the Hall of Fame coaches in the state coach our team, and we won a state title in Class 2A. I think I remember the sectional run more because of the significance, because of the rivalries. And I felt like when they shifted to class basketball, whether or not you agree with it or not, it took away some of those rivalries, and it took away the significance of those sectional titles.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a 4A size school, and I'm with you. And I think if you talk to generations past, they'll say the same thing. Like if you just look at it, kind of my neck of the woods where I grew up, you had the Johnson County schools. Obviously those schools would be grouped in a sectional together. It would be like Center Grove and Greenwood and Whiteland and perhaps like an Edinburgh and a Franklin. And obviously those schools have grown in size and have developed. But obviously, 20 years ago, Center Grove was probably the biggest school in Johnson County. Then you had, a smaller school like Franklin or a smaller school like Greenwood, and it would be a one-class system. And for one of those schools to upset the big school like Center Grove in the sectional, that was the equivalent of their state championship. Like if they won a sectional championship, beating a big school, that got talked about for generations, right? It's kind of like, you still talk about that, passing it down to your grandkids, your kids, their kids. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that's the sort of like the nostalgia, the Hoosier hysteria.
Right.
Some of those components have been, I don't want to say lost, but certainly changed and adapted. But yeah, that small town community rivalry stuff does kind of go away when you have when you group these schools based on size instead of location. But listen, I still love the fact that you see on Twitter, you see on the news highlights of these games, especially this time of year, the regional, the semi-state. You still have packed gyms at Southport and Jasper and Newcastle and in Logansport, right? So I mean, it's still there. It's just a little bit different. And I'm all for kids playing longer, more kids, tasting success. So from that standpoint, I like it. But yeah, you do lose a little bit of that small community feel that Hoosier hysteria had back in the day.
One more thing before we let you go. A lot of people have been sending in comments asking about the possibility of Lamar Jackson to the Colts. Do you have any lead on that?
No lead on it. No lead on. I mean, everything just started officially yesterday. The new league year, if you will, started yesterday at 4:00. So that was the earliest teams could start negotiating and talking with Lamar Jackson, who did sign that exclusive franchise tag or non-exclusive franchise tag a few weeks back, which means that if he does get an offer from another team, the Ravens would have a chance to match it. And if they don't, that team that signs Lamar Jackson would then have to give up 2 first-round picks, send those to the Ravens, and then that obviously would have to sign Lamar Jackson to the contract that they agreed upon, and that contract's going to be pretty up there. It's going to be probably in the neighborhood of a fully guaranteed contract, and maybe not the Deshaun Watson deal, but certainly I would say 150, 175 million guaranteed, which is what he wants. And, there's a lot to be said for a quarterback that is proven, that is not a projection going from Saturday to Sunday. This guy can play in the NFL, as we all know. He's an MVP. He's one of the best players in the game. Unfortunately, he's been banged up the last couple of years for the Ravens, which kind of throws a wrench into all of this. But yeah, nothing concrete at all in terms of the Colts' interest in Lamar Jackson. But I will tell you that everything's on the table for the Colts in terms of the long-term answer at quarterback, whether that's draft or a trade, or in this case, pursuing a guy that's essentially on pseudo free agency with Lamar Jackson. So we'll see what happens. But, we still got 6-7 more weeks before the draft, and quarterback talk continues to be prevalent, rightfully so. And we'll see what happens. It's certainly fun. And that's what I said. Like you have all of that going on this week in the backdrop of the NCAA tournament. So when you're focused on basketball a little bit too much, you get the alert, you get the notification on your phone by football saying, come on back. It's like that girlfriend that never completely goes away. Your ex-girlfriend just keeps on crawling back and giving you ideas to get back together.
Well, Matt, we appreciate you as always. Thanks for dealing with me today instead of Jim. We appreciate you and hope that you enjoyed your short stay with JTP and Dustin Schutte.
You got it, guys. Yeah, trademark it. Let's go. Get Jim. You guys, rival show right here. Rival show.
There we go.
Same time slot, and then you have to pick and choose what you're listening to. I know where I'm going.
Oh, that's right. Well, again,
tampering.
That's right. We got some tampering going on.
See you, boys.
We'll hand the reins back over to the man, the myth, the legend, Jim Coyle, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal.
All right, Jim. Looks like Michael Lewis is here.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, we can't hear you if you need some headphones. I think she's going to help him out. Let's see.
Oh, he's got the perfect assistant.
We still don't hear you.
He's muted.
No, well, he wasn't muted earlier. They're trying different things, but
isn't his sound muted?
No. Whenever he initially tried, it wasn't muted. When they were searching through stuff, then they muted it while they were looking.
Oh.
If they get back on with more trouble, I'll direct them to the settings if I need to.
Shooby dooby dooby doo. We got games tonight.
We do. We
got games all day.
That's right. Forgot about that. I've got stuff to do all day.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh. A guy I work with, he's with KSR, but he's not on like the official KSR show. He has a different show. He's having Tom Crean on this morning.
Oh, nice.
I wonder why.
Because he's an analyst?
I guess, but it's kind of funny that he's going with Tom Crean. I wonder what he's trying to get out of him. I wonder if he's going to ask him about the WKU job.
There you go. That could be.
All right, here we go. 30 seconds. And I guess we'll hopefully hear from Michael Lewis.
Yeah, we will. We'll hear from you back.
Your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Thursday. It's tournament time, man. Basketball. Time to get to it, even though it's snowy outside here. It's not that bad at all. Arrived yesterday, last night, and later on last night, I was walking around and I'm like, this is not bad. Everything is cleaned off. The sidewalks, the streets. I mean, completely. When the plane was landing, I was looking down and you could see there was not a parking lot, a drive-through, or whatever that was not completely cleared. I'm like, these people are not rookies. This is like child's play to them.
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing. They deal with this stuff all the time from like October through April. So they are seasoned veterans. I'm not surprised that they've got everything plowed out, shoveled, good to go for the tournament.
Yeah, and speaking of the tournament, it gets underway today, baby. And then, of course, Indiana plays tomorrow. But the tournament, for all practical purposes, got underway 2 days ago. So it's weird to say you want to say it gets underway today, but it really started 2 days ago? I mean, I don't know, whatever. Let's go with today. It's Thursday of tournament day. Michael Lewis joining us here from
you guys
from the campus of Ball State University. Michael, how are you, sir?
Well, I had to call in some help there. You guys got some high-tech platform that my phone or my whatever browser I was using was not supporting, so I had to do all kinds of stuff here. Above my pay grade.
Get a teenager in there like I would have to do.
Yeah, we got the youngest person in the office in here and made it work. Had to go down to the women's staff. Women got a big WNIT game tonight, so they're in there. I had to go down and get the youngest person in the building here to make it happen.
First of all, congratulations on a great season. First season. I mean, man, you go into a new school, of course, your first head coaching job. So to end up with a season like that, you have to be happy. I know you, as a coach, you always want more, but for a first-year situation, you got to be happy with the success you guys had.
Yeah, I thought it was a good year. I mean, things never end. Only one team's going to enjoy the ending, right? So we had some things that, some injuries and different things at the end that kind of hurt us, but to be able to win 20 games, which that's only the 13th time that's happened here in 102 years of basketball. So, I think that's something these guys can be proud of. I think the bigger than that is they played and competed in a way that they reestablished Ball State as a basketball program here, in the MAC, and really created some excitement on campus and in Muncie and really across the state, and reestablished some pride in basketball and Ball State in general. And I think can really elevate not only our program, but our university moving forward if we can take advantage of some of this momentum.
And Michael, one of the things I wanted to ask you was that you were an assistant coach for a long time, but obviously just your first season as a head coach. What were some of the things you kind of learned going through that process of being a head coach for the first time that maybe you weren't aware of, or maybe some things that you hadn't expected that popped up during your first season as a head coach at Ball State?
Well, I think my experiences with the guys that I've been able to work for, really prepared me for this opportunity. And, I think, if anything, like you realize, like, you know it as an assistant, but you really realize it as a head coach, like how long a season it is. Like instead of doing every third scout, you're on every one. And that, you got so many different names and numbers and actions, going through your head. It can be a bit much. So you find yourself, at the end of the season, obviously you have some disappointment. But that first time you take yourself to bed, like you sleep, you sleep hard and long, but then you wake up and get to move into what's next. But no, I think just my experiences as an assistant and really who I was able to work for, kind of prepared me for this, because they always, everybody I worked for always tried to push you to want to work like a head coach and really kind of gave you some responsibilities. And so I think that really, prepared me for what this is, but you never, I don't think, you're ever fully prepared till you jump into it. Probably like that for any job, till you get thrown in the fire and have to figure it out. But that's why you surround yourself with a good staff. And we were fortunate to have some good players that were about the right things. And that's why we had the season that we had.
And let's talk about the MAC, man. Boy, was that a tough league this year. Gee whiz. We know we're going to talk about Kent State, who Indiana's going to play, but Akron and Ball State and the 420-win teams in that league. Yeah. That's pretty good for any league, but that was a tough league this year, Michael.
Yeah, I think it's always been a good basketball league. You're right in the heart of a very similar footprint as the Big Ten. You have the same officials, like they're under the same consortium, and so you're getting some of that, and so it's I kind of refer to it as a mini Big Ten. Obviously the level is different, but the physicality. I think there's good coaches across our league. The people are well prepared. You're well scouted, and you've got to bring it every night. Otherwise, you trip up. We had 2 games on the road late that games that we probably should have won, and we weren't ready to play and lose, and that hurts you. But it's a strong league. I think Kent State is really good. I think Toledo was excellent all year. And then I think John Gross does an excellent job at Akron. And so I think the challenge for us is, we beat each one of those teams one time. We split with each one of them. We slipped up. We lost to some teams below us. But we got to take a step up. We didn't have a first team all league guy. We had two second team guys. But we've got to be able to continue to build this program to where we're competing, with those teams above us each and every night, and handling our business. And so I think we took a big step with that this year, and we got to continue to build this program, because I think we got some things moving in the right direction.
And you talk about building the program, and one of the things, I'm not going to ask specifics because I don't know all the rules or anything, but what are some of the challenges that you faced on the recruiting trail, or again, some of the things that maybe you weren't aware of that pop up as a first-time head coach?
Well, I growing up, I remember Ball State, winning championships and going to the NCAA tournament. And then, you start your own career and you realize it's been, over 20 years. And so I think the biggest challenge, I think that's where we took the biggest step, is reestablishing Ball State as, a basketball school and where basketball can be good and create some excitement. And because it just fallen on some hard times over 20 years. And, to reestablish that, kind of get some excitement, get people looking back at Ball State like, hey, this is an option. You can go play in a good league with, and a good program. I think has been, the thing that we've overcome the most here early. So we've generated some real interest in what we're trying to do here.
And I know that the rest of, but we're going to talk about the NCAA tournament, and we're focused on that. But you're focused on recruiting, man. You're working, and I know you can't talk about that specifically, but that is never not a part of the job.
That's the biggest part, like other than working and taking care of your guys, and in your program, you got to continue to cultivate relationships and identify people that you want a part of your program. And now with the transfer portal being what it is, it's what you got to live with. And it doesn't, we've talked before, it doesn't matter if I think it's right or wrong, or we got to figure out how to navigate it for what's best for Ball State. And so, it's going to be another huge number in that thing. People continue to try to chase what they're looking for, and everybody's different, and it's much different than when I was coming up and I was playing and what was important to me when I was choosing a school. But you got to work around that and figure out how to put together the best possible team you can for Ball State.
How difficult is that? Because I've heard a number of coaches talk about the difficulty with the transfer portal and trying to tell kids that just because maybe you're not playing or the situation isn't right your first year, that doesn't mean 2 or 3 years down the road you won't get your shot or you won't have an opportunity with this program. I mean, how difficult has that been to navigate through this transfer portal and during this NIL era?
Yeah, no, I think what we just try to be very transparent, and it may be the wrong way to approach it because we're just honest. Like, hey, like this is what I see for you in our program, and if people don't like that, then they can choose to go elsewhere. It can be very easy for me to sit in here and lie to a young man and tell him how great it is, and this you're going to do X, Y, Z, and then next year he's when they're buried on the bench, you're like, what's up, and I don't think that's right. I don't believe in that. I believe in being honest and transparent, and this is what my true feelings are, or my opinion of what you can do for our program a year from now. And it takes all kinds, but some people want more, and so they got to figure that out. Like, I think it's a fine line between, like, this is your one chance to be a college athlete and what you want to get out of it, compared to, like, what can that program and the people that you're surrounded by do for you over the next 30 or 40 years of life to get you started in life, and that's where I think I was really fortunate to be in Indiana because, I was fortunate to be able to play, which is important to everybody. And we were able to have success, but I was also smart enough to understand what Indiana can do for me for the rest of my life. So, and I think that's a lot of things that get lost. That, people keep changing and chasing, something just for them. And, winning was important to me. Winning was much more important to me, and my experience was much more important to me than the difference of playing 20 minutes or 30 minutes or, whatever. And so, it's just a different time frame, and kids are looking for different things. And we need a governing body that when they say they're not going to allow X, then you can't allow X regardless of any other circumstance. The one-time transfer rule, like, there's guys in the portal transferring for the second, third, fourth time.
Yeah.
And they're going to get the waiver because, that any threat of litigation gets thrown out and they allow them to do what they want to do. And so, we got to figure out, there's a balance, and we got to figure out, how best to serve both the universities and the student athletes in this whole thing.
Yeah, that is a trick that hopefully that they get that figured out, because this is the greatest sporting event going, man, and we all love it. Kent State and Indiana are going to clash here at the NCAA tournament. Kent State as well as anybody. Of course, Indiana. Before I get to that, I want to almost forgot. Being a Jasper boy, Scott Rowland goes into the Hall of Fame this summer. I'm sure we're obviously happy for him, but have you and Scott spoken?
I let it probably 24, 36 hours go by, and I sent him a text, and he sent a nice response back. And that's so cool, and I think he's very deserving. I think, the career, like, he's a pro's pro. He's not going to hit a home run and gawk at it, and he's not about the show. Like,
he's a Jasper guy.
He's got a job to do. He's going to go do it. You never had to worry about his dependability when it came to that. You never had to worry about anything off the court crazy. Like, he's going to represent his organization at the highest level. And so he's a pro's pro. I couldn't be. I mean, I was so happy for him. Like, you get. I've said this because I've taken the court with Jason Kidd. I've been on the court with Stephon Marbury. Like, I played with a lot of guys, coached. Like, he is the best athlete that I've ever, competed with or against. in my entire life. Like you play that dude in ping pong, he's going to whip your ass. Like you go, it's like it doesn't matter. Like he's just that dude, and so to see him have that moment, like that's big time.
Yeah, and what a hell of a basketball player he was.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Up to Mr. Basketball.
There's in that time in my life in high school, like there wasn't many people that could get me to pass, and he got me to pass it to him. I knew what it was. My freshman year, like, hey man, like you got to get Scotty the ball, man. No, he's just an unbelievable athlete and just a good human being.
Yeah, I see. Fortunately, he lives in Bloomington, and fortunate to get to see him kind of frequently, and very humble. One of the most just great. He's just a great all around person. Yeah. But of course, not surprising. Much like yourself, the people of Jasper, great people. It's a great area. An area of hardworking people. But yeah, I mean, you guys are both very, very similar. Very hardworking, successful athletes, humble, and yeah, I'm just very happy to know both you guys. But yeah, great success for both you Jasper boys.
Well, he did it at the highest level and represented everybody in the right way. It's pretty cool to see him go to Cooperstown.
Kent State, a team you know well, as that you had to battle with. You split with them this year, and a tough run through the MAC conference. Now they take on Indiana, and I think that this is the toughest 4-13 matchup in the tournament. I think this is the toughest little bracket in the tournament, but this is no easy. Well, there are no easy games, but this is not a non-easy game.
It's funny. Like obviously, all my friends are still Indiana fans, and they, you get what you're talking about and building this thing up. And I think it's going to be a good game. I think IU wins this. I think they just have too much across the board. I think they have too much depth. Like Kent State's down a starter. A kid broke his hand or finger or something. He's been out. One of their shooters, which is hurts them. They're not near the shooting team that they were earlier in the year. And I think that's one of their weaknesses. They don't shoot it great. Now they can get hot. Sincere Carey's not, his percentage is not high, but he's got the knack of hitting the big one, and he can get streaky. He's really good in the mid range and off ball screen. Their bigs are like they don't throw it to them on the post and post up. They do more. They get their shots off penetration and drop downs or off pick and roll. The rim running. I think Sullinger comes off the bench, provides shooting. Their 4-man, Myron Thomas, who was at Ball State previously and transferred there. Like he's a pick and pop forward. Like you can allow him to get a shot off. Like that's what he does. Like you have to close out to make him a driver. Like if you got him scoring or trying to take shots in 2-point range, you're doing your job. Like make him hit a bunch of those. But don't let him get the pick and pop threes. Jay Jacobs is an elite defender, but and he's going to be a hard driver. Like I just think there's things in the matchup that IU can use to their advantage. And I've talked to my buddies and like if it's tied at halftime, don't freak out. Like I think you can just wear them down. Like when we were able to beat them here at our place, we handled their ball screen pressure much better than we did when we were on the road. We were able to spread them out and attack them. Like it was interesting. One of our starting forwards was out with an injury in that game, and we had to play smaller. And I think it was to our advantage because we were able to spread them out. And they do a really good job of zoning up behind their ball screen, hard hedge, kind of semi-trap stuff. And we were able to get rid of it quicker. And then you get them in rotations and closeouts, and we were able to attack them. And I think we shot 30-plus free throws. We did a good job of getting into their bench, and that's where they really drop off. I think their top 7 is as good as any 7 in our league. But if you can get into that bench, I think it's to your advantage. And I think IU just has more when it comes to that. Like if they just continue to make the easy plays and simple plays throughout the game, that they will just, wear them down to the point where, they advance.
Now, is the spreading out of was that something that you consciously decided to do with that particular game? Did you change your?
Yeah, I mean, just the way they defend, and I think it also helped. When we were, it kind of forced our fans to play smaller, and so we were able to get, more ball handling and shooting on the floor. Obviously, you're going to have to be able to knock in some shots, but you can spread them out. I think Shafino's gotten improved throughout the year, and a little bit that I've been able to watch in the bits and pieces. And he's a bigger guard. Like we don't have that size at guard, and so he's going to be able to see over some of that and deliver it. The thing you can't do is you get to the ball in that ball screen. You got to be able to get rid of it. So you got to have somebody an outlet, and then you can attack underneath them. And I thought that's what was best for us when we were able to beat them.
Well, I'm sure a lot of our Indiana fan listeners you'll still be in their good graces, thinking Indiana's going to take care of business against Kent State, get to the round of 32. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Michael, whether it was as a player, as a coach, what is your favorite March Madness memory?
Going to Final Four. Yeah. When we were able to when we beat Michigan there in the Elite Eight, and to go to the Final Four, like that was the best. I said on some other radio podcast something that, I've played in a lot of games and I've coached in way more. And there's certain things about certain games that, kind of stand out. And the older I get and the longer I do this, the foggier some of those memories are. But I can tell you each one of the 23 NCAA tournament games that I've been a part of, like those things are the things that stand out. Like you remember that. So, all those games, and some of them, obviously they don't always end well. they more of them don't end well than they do in a good spot. So, but no, I think, being able to go to the Final Four as a coach was, something that I'm obviously always going to remember, and something like once you have that, like you continue to chase that feeling, all the time. So it not only is kind of the pinnacle of my career so far, but also, something that drives you, that you chase again every day.
I know you as being a coach, you obviously you don't get a chance to watch other teams that you're not you're going to be playing, scouting, whatever. Did you get a chance to see Indiana at all? Yeah,
I did. There was probably 2 or 3 games I was able to watch beginning to end. One of them being the Purdue game, at Purdue, I think it was, which was fun. But yeah, there was probably 2 or 3 that I saw beginning to end, and then, several more that, was able to catch, 5 or 10 minutes here and there. And so it's a little easier just being on the same time as they are here than it was, out in LA. Sometimes it's been harder to catch my Bruins, honestly. They got me staying up late, but I got to be up late tonight. It looks like back-to-back nights, honestly. 10 o'clock Bruins tonight and 10 o'clock with IU tomorrow. So, but no, I was able to catch them. I think they've had a good year. It's watching them kind of become who they are. Like I said, I think Shafino has really grown as the season's gone on. Trace has been Trace, and I think you never know what you got until you get in the heart of this thing, and I think they're in as good a position as anybody to to make a run. I like the pieces, but at this time of year you got to play well. You can't go have a dud. Like I've told people, like, can Kent State beat Indiana? Yeah, they can beat them. Like if they play 10 times, they probably win 1 or 2. But I like Indiana in this matchup. I think they're the better team, and I think their strength and depth will be the deciding factor. But if you don't show up, like, Kent State's good enough to win, and that's what makes this tournament so fun to watch.
It absolutely is, Michael. I cannot thank you enough for your time, as always.
I apologize about coming. I apologize coming on late. You start talking platforms and what are these search things? Like, you're out of my league, man. So I apologize for being a little bit late, but I'm glad I was able to jump on here.
Buddy, you're never late. You're always on time. Appreciate you more than you know. Looking forward to seeing you again, maybe hopefully this summer, play some golf or something.
I did a little retail therapy. I got a little retail therapy when our season was over. I bought me a 4-seat golf cart. There's a golf course right across the street from across the street was like the 11th tee box. So, I've never understood what retail therapy was. And I'm not sure it was the smartest decision, but it did at the moment. It felt good, and I got it all tricked out, and so I don't know how many people on the golf course with me at the same time are going to be happy I'm out there, but I'm going to have a good time.
Oh, man, you don't see you coming, brother. I cannot wait. The great Michael Lewis, the head coach for the Ball State Cardinals, joining us here on this Thursday. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you so much.
All right, thank you. We'll see you guys.
Thank you, buddy. Michael Lewis, so grateful gracious to join us. We love him and appreciate him so much. We've got lots more coming up. Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com joins us next. Right after this, brought to you by Barber Pop Real Estate Services. For those of you in the Louisville, Southern Indiana area, you need Barber Pop because they have served those communities for 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at barberpop.com or our friend Matt Lincoln, Matt at barberpop.com. Back with Kyler Staley right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore.
Boy, John, you can write Tony all over that one.
I love that.
That's an Emmy winner right there.
Oh,
well, that was wonderful, Peter.
And now we got to talk to Kyler. Golly.
I'm sorry. Michael Lewis. I'm like, I can't follow that. Can't follow it.
I was going to say, man, we go from Michael Lewis to Kyler. We got it rolling.
Hey, time out, though. Never feel bad because this happened to me one time when I was at Saturday Tradition. They asked me to come on XM Sirius I think it was for March Madness. And it was John Crispin and Matt Schick from ESPN. And the producer calls me. He goes, you're following Rick Mahorn, so best of luck. And so I went on the radio. I go, guys, I'm not going to be anywhere close to Rick Mahorn. And they started laughing. They're like, yeah, we don't expect you to be.
I said, can I bow out?
Yeah. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, not even like a guest, a break, and then another guest. It was bam, bam. And I was like,
I just can't believe that the producer said that to you. That wouldn't make me feel good, regardless.
Oh, well, I knew who I had talked with him. Like, he and I had been chatting for 2 years.
Oh,
so he knew it wasn't going to he knew it wasn't going to bother me because he was laughing.
Got you.
Yeah. It would be the same thing as if you did the same thing. Like, hey, we just had Michael Lewis. Good luck, Dustin.
The first thing I can get my hands on, Fred.
I'll tell you what, you can eat the yellow snow.
Oh.
Gross.
I make snow cones.
I like listening to Michael Lewis talk.
That was fantastic.
Man, he's great.
I liked how he went. He gave a great explanation for the transfer portal and NIL stuff. Man, that was awesome.
Yeah. It makes sense. It's exactly what he said is exactly true.
Well, some coaches are like, well, it's this, that. No, he'll just tell you what it is. And I like that.
Yeah. It affects all levels, especially when you get to the mid-major level. That's it really hurts coaches at the end of the day.
Right. I agree.
Well, you didn't miss the travel.
I know, and I'm really pumped I did.
It was not fun. I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah, I'm glad I avoided that. Honestly,
it was just long. It was like, God, it just seemed long.
All right, here we go, folks.
We'll wait till next week.
Them to your doorstep once a week. That's right. It's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, March 16th. That means tournament basketball time, and today is the opening day, I guess you'd say, and we've got Kyler Staley with us from thehoosier.com to break it down, man. I know it's not really the opening day because I keep saying that because I feel I want to say it's opening day, but Tuesday was really opening day, and it's like, but it's not really opening day. But here's the thing: when you're in the play-in game, you're not in the tournament. But if you win that game, it's a tournament win.
Yeah. Well, I guess you look at it as the first 4 games are the appetizer, and now today we're at the main course. Now it's the greatest day in sports. I'll argue that till the day I die. So I mean, it beats Christmas out of the water. It's the greatest day of the world. So I'm excited. It's just an awesome day full of nothing but basketball.
Well, first of all, there's no lot of that, and just to be in front of 4 TVs would be great at once. But when those games are all going, it is like Christmas magic, man. It's like lights tinkling and just snow falling and crystals.
Did you say lights tinkling? Twinkling.
It's like there's just nothing better.
Nothing better. I think an underrated part of March Madness is looking up in the right corner and seeing the scores of the other games and then just switching over to them. I think that's the best one. Yes, 4 TVs would be great. Hopefully I can get my setup like that today. But you're just seeing the scores and just keeping track of all of them. I mean, doesn't get any better than that.
It's my favorite. These are my favorite 2 days, and it's even better that tomorrow. This happened last year too, I believe. Tomorrow, Friday is also St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
So you get the combination of college basketball, St. Patrick's Day. I have the day off, so it's going to be fantastic.
I have the day off.
I don't know. I might be coming up with a cold. I might have to take a sick day tomorrow.
It would be an interesting study to see if one of these 2 days is the most called out for work. Like the most.
There's no other combination like that. St. Patrick's Day and an opening day of the NCAA tournament. That is freaking. You want to talk about madness? March Madness. That is madness. That is crazy. There's already people. They already have enough reason to drink. They're already out there. Now you want to throw in St. Patrick's Day on top of this? Now you're bringing out people who don't give a crap rat's butt about basketball. 3 times as many that do, which are a lot, and you're throwing them into the fray now.
Yeah, especially in the state of Indiana. It's just like pouring oil on a gas fire at that point.
Yeah, maybe it's fortunate that I'm not going to be in Indiana at this date, but we'll be in New York, where Indiana will be taking on Kent State tomorrow. We'll get to that in a minute. But since things get going today, what are some of any favorite matchups that you looked ahead at today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of those 8 and 9 matchups this year. When they were announcing those, those are just some interesting, matchups. I mean, I looked today at the schedule. I didn't know what time the teams played today, and right off the bat, we've got I believe it's Auburn and Iowa. I think that's who we start off with, or no, West Virginia and Maryland. I think that's what it is. But I mean, those 2 games alone, I think that's just interesting because you don't see those types of games. You don't see, Big 12, Big 10 matchups. You don't see anything like that. It's a rarity. So it's just always fun just seeing the different matchups, that can take place, especially when you look into the round of 32, the possibilities of, certain teams meeting up and everything. So at the end of the day, I think every matchup in the NCAA tournament's interesting to a point just because you don't see them all that often.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking, John and I, in the first segment about that the Maryland, West Virginia, and I'm going to be honest with Jim right here. I hope the Big 12 falls flat on its face so I can make fun of you for propping up the Big 12 all season long. But
hey man, they are what they are. They were good.
They were good. They'll probably end up being solid. But I just had to throw in that jab. But I think that the West Virginia Maryland game is interesting because Maryland doesn't play well outside of the Xfinity Center, and then the Iowa Auburn game because look, I've mentioned this 8,000 times, but Fran McCaffrey in 416 years of coaching has never made the Sweet 16. They were playing the hottest basketball of any team last season, as John brought up, and they got beat in the first round by Richmond. So can they kind of overcome some of those demons? I think the biggest issue so the two issues with those two Big Ten teams is Maryland doesn't play well away from home. Iowa can't defend a lick. So if their shots aren't falling, they could be a one and done.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, especially when you look at how West Virginia's played this year. Maybe the record's not the greatest, 19-14, but they've been pretty tough. They've lost some really close games this year, and they've really clawed the entire season to make the NCAA tournament. They're a sneaky team that could go on a run this year if teams aren't careful. I can see them really, if they get past Maryland, I can see them really giving Alabama fits in the second round. And then you made a good point, Dustin, about Iowa. It's all about them, hitting their shots at the end of the day. Auburn, obviously, in the SEC, they're going to have a lot more athleticism coming into that. So Big Ten teams usually don't do well with high athletic teams. So we'll just see how that kind of shapes out. But like I said, those 8-9 matchups, I don't think you can get a better matchups out of those four.
No, man, I'm looking excited or forward to it. I'm excited but it just seems like it doesn't even matter a lot most of the time what the seeds are. The games are good, with the exception of a lot of times the 16-1 games with good reason are not going to be good. But it's not always the case. But it doesn't matter. It's like, man, these games are crazy. These teams have one shot. Look at St. Peter's last year, the run they went on. Who's the team that's going to go on the St. Peter's run? Last year it was St. Peter's. Before that it was Loyola Chicago and Sister Jean. So there's always something. There's always the darling of the NCAA, and it's like, but you can't pick it, because if you could pick it, you're pouring magic into a bottle, and we don't have that foresight. I wish I did, or I'd be betting on it in Vegas. I promise you. But there's always a story and a storyline. Who's going to be that storyline, and seeing that develop is going to be fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the best part, especially when you get to the round of 32 and you see some in-state schools go off against each other that are in different conferences. That's always been my favorite throughout the years, especially when you get to the state of Indiana and you see like a Butler or Ball State or something like that, Purdue and Indiana State, something like that, where you see those schools play against each other that don't often play against each other. I look at the Texas and Texas A&M potential matchup in the second round in the Midwest region. I think that'll be a really good game if we get to that point. But, storylines is what makes the NCAA tournament great. I know Indiana, if you look at their region, there's a lot of potential storylines there if they advance further. So that's what makes the NCAA tournament great, in my opinion.
I mean, we talked about this earlier, too, with Matt Taylor. You don't want your team to be on the upset end usually, right? Like Indiana in this case. We love upsets, but in this case, Indiana's the 4 seed, Kent State the 13th seed. What are some things, Kyler, that you think Indiana needs to do in order to win this game? Because it looks to me like, we talked with Michael Lewis. He said they're not a great shooting team. They can light it up. But you look through some of the games they've played this season. They played Houston tough. That game was I think it was a 49-46 or 49-44 final. So they're perfectly fine with dragging you into a phone booth, knocking you around, playing physical, playing good defense. To me, Indiana's been inconsistent on the shot making. So to me, I think you got to play really good defense against this Kent State team. What are you seeing with this matchup? What are the players, coaches talking about? It's going to be key for this one.
Yeah, you made some good points there. I agree with pretty much all of what you said. Kent State's coming in. They're a battle-tested team. They play in the MAC. One of the toughest mid-majors out there. I always love me some action, as a lot of people say. So they come in. They play some tough road games. This season, like you mentioned, Gonzaga, Houston, College of Charleston was also a tough game that they all lost. But they're a team. Indiana's seen teams like this throughout the season. They've seen smaller teams that love to shoot the ball. Penn State,
Kent
State's pretty much the mid-major version of Kent State or Penn State. They're a team that's going to light it up. They're not extremely efficient from, three, but, any team can get hot. And if they get hot, Indiana's going to really struggle. It's important for Indiana's defense. You got to make these players beat you off the dribble. You got to make them try to make plays at the lane where, Trace Jackson Davis, Malik Renew, those guys can, contest some shots. They're a versatile team. Their biggest strength from what I've seen on a lot of scouting reports is they love to cause turnovers. They love to, they average, around 9 steals a game. I believe I saw a stat earlier that was they force 16 turnovers a game. So you got to protect the ball if you're Indiana. You look at the offensive end, Trace Jackson Davis. I think he's going to be Trace Jackson Davis. I don't think they're going to disrupt him a lot. They're probably going to throw, 2 or 3 guys at him, but Trace will get his. He'll go on runs and on his own accord. I look at Jalen Hood-Schifino. Man, he's had a great season, but a lot of games where he doesn't show up. A lot of games, and you look at the Penn State game for an example, the shots weren't falling, and if the shots aren't falling, he's going to continue to shoot until he gets some shots to fall. He's got to come in. He's got to come in locked in on the offensive end, and then obviously you need that third guy. You need a Miller Cobb. You need Trey Galloway, Malik Renew, Tamar Bates. You need one of those guys to step up in order for Indiana to make a deep run. But Indiana's little mini tournament with Kent State. Then you got the potential matchup between Drake and Miami. It's a tough one. I would say it's one of the more tougher little areas in the NCAA tournament when you look at it for all teams. Indiana's got to play through their strengths. They got to play the Trace Jackson Davis. They got to realize, especially in this game, that they have the size advantage. Hopefully their shots are falling. They limit the turnovers. Indiana has struggled, taking care of the ball in a lot of games this year. So take care of the ball, play defense, make those guys beat you off the dribble. I think Indiana would have a good shot at winning this game.
And one of the things, too, you just mentioned, you think Trace Jackson Davis is going to have, be himself in this game. And I don't disagree with that. I doubt Kent State has anybody that can really contain him. But to that point, is this kind of a thing where you think Kent State's going to say, you know what, we're content with letting Trace Jackson Davis get his. We can't let them get perimeter shooting going. We can't let their other guys get involved in this game. They might be perfectly fine letting TJD get 30 points if they can shut down the perimeter and keep those other guys at bay.
Yeah. I mean, that could be a perfect way that they could look at this game. I would expect. I've seen teams kind of go with that approach throughout the season. Facing against Indiana, I would expect them to throw some double, triple teams at Trace early on in the game, and then just how the game kind of adjusts. Maybe Kent State will make some adjustments throughout. A big thing. Obviously, you don't want to get Jalen Hood-Schifino going because if him and Trace are going, it's going to be problems for Indiana. But like I said, it comes down to that third guy. If that's going to be the case where they're going to let Trace get his and they're going to shut down Jalen Hood-Schifino, it comes down to Trey Galloway, Miller Kopp, Trace Thompson, Malik Renew, Tamar Bates. Those 5 really. Which one of those guys is going to step up? You hope that Tamar Bates is going to build some consistency off of his Penn State performance because, I mean, honestly, his play this year has been mostly disappointing in a way. So, you would expect him. He's got to hit some shots. He's got to hit some shots from behind the arc for Indiana to have a chance here. But yeah, I could totally see Kent State going with that approach. I just think you'll see what they adjust, once you get to halftime and just how the game flow is going.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking the key to Indiana is, this is Trace Jackson Davis's last go round. But it's also Jalen Hood-Schifino's last go-round because we don't expect him to be back. And so how will this team come out? How are they going to play? What's the mindset that they're going to bring? Because we've seen them play in games where they were just destroyed people. And then we've seen them where they didn't do that. But you would certainly think that there's no way that mindset does not travel with them in this situation.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is the NCAA tournament. You lose, you're out. Your season's over with. You hope the seniors realize that. Trace Jackson Davis is looking at it that way. You hope that Race Thompson, Miller Kopp are looking at it that way, and especially if Jalen Hood-Schifino already has his mind made up that he's going to be leaving after the season. This is it for Indiana. They built a good team this year. This team, was projected to have a lot of success. They've got the team. If they're all clicking and they're all on the same page, they've got the team to make a run in this NCAA tournament. I have no doubts about that. It's just all about them believing, having that mindset. It starts on the defensive end for Indiana, and then who knows what happens after that? Hopefully shots are hitting, but at the end of the day, they got to come out with some effort. They got to come out with some energy. They can't just roll over when things get tough. Not saying Indiana's done that a whole lot this year, but especially in the NCAA tournament, you can't afford that to happen. So you hope all your older guys are viewing that as this is a very desperate game, and this is a game that they must win. They're not taking it lightly.
Did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
All right, just want to make sure you didn't have anything that we needed to hit on. Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com joining us. We appreciate him and his time as always. Thank you, sir. We'll be talking soon.
Yep. Talk to you guys later.
Kyler Staley here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, we've got the great Chris Denari. Close it out. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home in the
Everybody's traveling.
What's
Good
up,
morning,
Road
Chris.
Warriors? Hello.
Where are you?
I'm in Milwaukee, home of the Marquette Golden Eagles.
Oh,
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
That's who I chose as my March Madness champion, believe it or not.
I like
Okay.
Marquette. I'm a Shaka. I like Shaka Smart.
hey, man, he's done a heck of a job.
Since we're all in a hotel, except for John, the producer, this is my question to everybody in this chat is why are the two temperatures in a hotel shower scalding hot coffee temperature or you're going to skinny dip in a frozen lake? That seems to be the two temperatures you get in a hotel shower.
Yeah, our hotel I did not like in Detroit, and I was there for like 3 nights. The first night we were there was like a bunch of DECA kids there. It was like a DECA convention, high school kids. And I swear the one day there was no hot water.
Oh,
I was like baffled. I was like, wow. But no, you're right. I mean, it's either hot or ice cold.
yeah. They're trying to save money on their water bill, I think, by giving
Now, where
two
are
options.
you, Dustin?
I'm just outside of Atlanta. I'm making a Midwestern trip up this time of year. So I'll be stopping in Kentucky on Friday and then in Indiana Sunday, making some other trips.
Yep.
Where in Kentucky? At a bourbon place?
Bardstown, yeah. I might be stopping by Maker's Mark. Might.
And where are you, Jim? Where's IU in Kent State? They're Friday.
Albany.
Oh, that's right. I did a game in Albany when Butler was in the Sweet 16 for the first time in 2003.
Oh, nice.
That's the year Carmelo Anthony and the Syracuse Orange won.
Oh, MVP Arena. It was the same arena.
Yeah, it was the same arena, it just had a different name. I don't know what it was then. It's downtown, right, Tim? I mean, it's
What's that?
The arena's just right downtown.
Yeah, yeah.
Restaurants.
Wait, Dunkin', was it Dunkin' Donuts? Isn't everything Dunkin' Donuts up here?
That's right.
food and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday tournament week. This is we're kicking it off today, man. Chris Denari, of course, from the Voice of the Pacers, joining us now from Milwaukee, where he is off to call his next. Why is the NBA? Why do they just do one game instead of like a Major League Baseball where they'll play 4 games? The NBA just plays one game and moves on.
Yeah, well, I mean, you only play each opponent in your division 4 times. You play some teams in the East 4 times, which means 2 at home, 2 on the road. Now, we just got done playing one of those situations. We were in Detroit for 3 days. We played Detroit last Saturday and then on Monday. So they are starting to do it a little bit more from a travel standpoint. When we went to LA, we played the Clippers on a Sunday and the Lakers on a Monday because you only play each of those Western Conference teams once on the road. So I think you're going to see it a little bit more from a travel standpoint because then it's less time on a plane. It's more time in a particular city. So, part of it's just, baseball, you're playing 4-game series with people. You're not going to play a 4-game regular season series with an opponent, but you are seeing more of this. So yeah, it's just it's a one-off here in Milwaukee. Play tonight, fly home tomorrow, play Philadelphia on Sunday or on Saturday, and then 4-game road trip that starts Monday in Charlotte. So yeah, we're in Milwaukee, home of the Marquette Golden Eagles, who I've always liked Shaka Smart when he was at VCU. Had a tough run at Texas, but boy, he had a great year at Marquette. Their AD, their athletic director, is a guy named Bill Scholl, who was the AD at Ball State for a few years. But I've known Bill a long time. He was an associate AD at Notre Dame, and he's done a great job at Marquette. And so that's one of the games I'll be watching. I know, Jim, we were just talking off air. You're in Albany. 20 years ago, I was in Albany when Butler went to the Sweet 16 and played Oklahoma. So very much familiar with that area from just 20 years ago doing a Butler game.
Well, and people that are listening on radio can't see it, but you're going to fit in quite well with Marquette because Chris has on his gold Pacers shirt with obviously the blue Indiana Pacers. I've got that exact same shirt. Mine's ruined because I can't be taken anywhere and eat food and not get it on me. But I was going to ask before we start talking more Pacers, do you have, whether it was as a broadcaster, I know you won a national championship at Wabash, or just as a fan, do you have a favorite March Madness memory or something that sticks out to you that, because earlier we talked about Matt Taylor and he said, just getting off the bus, watching all those games as a kid. I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing when Bryce Drew hit that shot for Valparaiso to beat Ole Miss. Is there anything, whether it was a broadcaster or just as a fan or a player, that sticks out to you from March Madness?
Well, for me, having been the associate athletic director at Butler and starting in 1989, honestly, sitting in Lucas Oil Stadium in 2010 and watching Butler nearly win a national championship was probably one of the most unbelievable things because, guys, when I started in 1989, Butler could only hope about winning a conference tournament game, let alone win an NCAA tournament game. So, just being a part of Butler's runs in the late 90s, going to the NCAA tournament for the first time, winning a Sweet 16 going to the Sweet 16 in 2003. Butler beat Mississippi State in game 1. We were down in Birmingham, which ironically is a first and second round site this year, and then beat Louisville and Rick Pitino in the round of 32 to go to the Sweet 16. For me, as a broadcaster, that was really cool. And having invested so much in my relationship with the people at Butler, that just meant so much to me. So, and at the Division III level, clearly, over 40 years ago, winning an NCAA Division III national championship. I used to joke with Sam Perkins worked for us for the Pacers, and he was on that 1982 North Carolina championship team that won at the Superdome then at New Orleans. And I told him one day, I said, "Hey, I got a ring just like you, Sam. We only had 3,000 people watching us. You had 50,000 people at the Superdome." But it meant the same, to our team, because we won a championship. But I love this time of year. I'll go to shoot around here in a little bit, but I'll be back in my room, prepping for the game with the games on. I'll have my iPad, with maybe True TV on. I'll have my TV on with CBS. and just watching, which is what is a great tournament.
This close, that shot to going in from becoming a real life Hoosiers movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it was ungodly how close it really was in Indianapolis. An Indy kid, an Indy team. Are you kidding me? I mean, I don't know how the shot didn't go in with everything like that. It was unbelievable.
And that was one of those moments where it seemed like, not to step on Chris, but just to add to that, that was like the ball seemed like it was in the air for 4 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I remember sitting in there. I was with my youngest son, and we were in the end zone. It was sort of on the angle at where the ball was coming. And, for a moment you thought, that has a chance. I mean, that might go in, and we might be witness, honestly, to one of the greatest moments in college basketball history. It might have been one of the greatest moments in sports history.
Yeah.
When you think about it, and again, I had that personal relationship, and
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
That context, because like I said, when I took the job in 1989, there were a lot of people that were saying, why do you want to go to Butler? Why do you want to try to, because I was at the Midwestern Collegiate Conference then. I was in the conference office, but I looked at it as an opportunity. It was a chance for me to do play-by-play of a Division I team. Who knew where it was going to lead, where I am today. But to sit there, I mean, it was like storybook. And I'm sure I'll be on the bus with Ronald Norred, one of our assistant coaches who was on that team. I mean, he was nearly a part of a storybook fairy tale ending. So I'd have to say that, there's so many moments. I mean, as a kid, watching it, all those kinds of things. I do remember one of the gut-wrenching March moments. Butler up 1 in 2000, playing Florida in the first round in Winston-Salem. Butler missed 2 free throws in the final seconds, and Mike Miller hit a shot at the buzzer for Florida to beat Butler in the first round. And Florida went on to the national championship game and got beat by Michigan State at the Dome, at the RCA Dome. So I remember going back. I think I laid on my bed in my hotel room for like 2 hours, because having been a part of, helping Butler grow and being that close to winning at that point an NCAA tournament game, that was gut-wrenching.
Yeah, it's just amazing what these moments they leave such indelible marks in us in our childhood, and it's why it's so awesome. There's just no other sporting event that does that. I mean, on this magnitude, it's great. But speaking of which, you've got a job. You're busy with the Pacers as you guys are traveling. And how are things going? How are things going along for the Pacers right now? I know they had the injury bug has bitten them a little bit here of late, but they seem to be managing to get through it at times.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing a lot better, than they did during that stretch when they lost 16 of 18. They've won 6 of 10. They've been much better on the road. Last weekend was an interesting time. I mean, they beat Detroit, and then Detroit beat the Pacers on Monday. They've got one of the worst records in the NBA, but then Houston has one of the worst records in the NBA, and they beat the Lakers. They beat Boston. I mean, they've had back-to-back wins. Houston, there's enough talent in this league that you cannot let your guard down, because they'll get you. And we saw that the last couple of nights in Houston with the Rockets picking up a pair of impressive wins. I mean, the Pacers are a game out of 10th, which is the final spot in the play-in. Chicago lost last night on a last-second shot, similar to how Tyrese Halliburton beat the Bulls a couple of Sundays ago. De'Aaron Fox hit a 3 last night, and that really hurt Chicago, because unlike Indiana, where there weren't expectations for the Pacers to even be a playoff or a play-in team, I mean, Chicago's loaded. I mean, they got They've got 3 all-stars. They were expected to be a playoff or a play-in team, and they are jockeying with the Pacers, just behind Washington now, I think, in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see. 13 games to play. I would expect Miles Turner and TJ McConnell to be back tonight to play. We'll see about Tyrese Halliburton. Benedict Mathurin is out. He sprained his ankle a week ago. Chris Duarte is out. He sprained his ankle on Monday. It just gives other guys and young guys an opportunity to play. And at this point, you're also trying to see what you have for the future. I do think this franchise has a very bright future with a lot of quality young players. So we'll see what they have here in the final 13 games.
When we talked about this, I think it was last year. We could have probably talked about it, for 3 straight years. I don't like to talk too much about injuries and put a positive spin on it. But if you're looking at it from a silver lining, again, we talked about this last week. The Pacers are in a position that nobody thought they would, and whether they get to the play-in game or not, they're basically for the rest of the season playing playoff basketball. Because you've got to win games to try to get into that play-in game to try to edge out Chicago for that final spot. To me, my question to you is, Chris, this is a young team. There's no question about that. They do have some veteran guys, some guys that have been there for a while. But since that losing 16 out of 18, are you starting to see maybe some of the rigors of an 82-game schedule for this young team, right? The inconsistency maybe with which they play? And I know they've dealt with injuries, but is that still part of the growing process for this team right now?
Yeah, there's no question about that. And I think hand in hand, their record when Tyrese Halliburton doesn't play, is not as good. That's the value that Tyrese Halliburton has on this team. And I think going forward with the young players that are part of the core, but with the players that are going to want to play with Tyrese Halliburton because he's such a dynamic player. He's a pass-first point guard who can score. He's leading the Pacers in scoring at nearly 21 points per game, and he's averaging well over 10 assists per game. So, no, I think it's about development. We've seen some great things out of Jordan Nwora. They got him in the trade with Milwaukee. He'll play against his former team tonight. He was a really good player at Louisville, and he's shown a lot of things, Dustin, that I wasn't sure he could do. I knew he was a good three-point shooter, but he's become a pretty good rebounder. His passing has been good. His ability to put it on the floor has been strong. So all of those things are going to be helpful moving forward for the front office and this coaching staff as they build this roster for the future.
And I wanted to ask too this, and I always feel like I'm making it the Tyrese Halliburton show, but he's by far to me the leader of this team. Have the Pacers had a player, and maybe I'm just not remembering correctly, but have they had a player at least recently that is a point guard type player that can create his own shot and is so good passing the basketball? I have to go back to Mark Jackson, and he couldn't get his own shot like Tyrese can.
Yeah.
You could probably put George Hill maybe in that category, but not as effective in my opinion. I just try to think he's such a unique player and somebody that I don't know that Indiana has had a player like him in the past.
No, I think you're right. I could go back to the early 2000s, maybe, another Iowa State Cyclone, Jamal Tinsley.
Yeah.
But he didn't, he could pass, he could score, but not to the level, I think you're right, that Tyrese does it. From the standpoint that when he had that he did have 40 points tonight, but they took a point away. They messed up on the scorebook. They gave points to Tyrese when it was Benedict. Anyway, he went from 40 points to 39 points. That's the night he had 39 and 19. Nobody in the history of the Pacers had ever had a 30-point, 15-assist game. So I think to your point, no, there's been nobody in Pacers history that can do what Tyrese can do. And also you can give him the ball and he can go get you baskets.
Yeah.
He can get buckets. He's one of the best closers in the NBA right now. If you look at the last time I ran the numbers, it was plus or minus 3 inside 5 minutes to play. Tyrese Halliburton was number 3 behind Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic. I think if it's plus or minus 5 inside 5, he dips down. He's still in the top 7 or 8. But if you look at it 3 points or less, Tyrese is one of the top 3 closers in the NBA this year. So there's no question the Pacers have not had anybody of his caliber or in his category in the history of the franchise.
Up next, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yep. They've only gone 23 over the last 26 games, so I think they're pretty good.
I hear they've got a good player or two on there.
Yeah, no, they do. Anytime you have somebody like Giannis, I mean, he just makes everybody else better. I mean, he's a special player. They shoot the three so well. I think in the 2 games against the Pacers this year, they've made an average of 23s. The Pacers played them here in Milwaukee back in January. Now, Giannis didn't play. Halliburton didn't play. The Pacers had a 13-point lead in the second half, but Milwaukee got hot from 3, and the Pacers faded a little bit in the fourth quarter. So both games have been very competitive against Milwaukee this year. We'll just see. We'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah, 50-19. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a pretty good record. I mean, and all these games are very important for them. They want to have the number 1 seed because the top 3 teams are Milwaukee, Boston, Philadelphia. And if you can be number 1, that means you only have to beat either Boston or Philadelphia. If you're 2 or 3, you're going to have to play 2 of those teams in the series.
Chris Denari, I cannot thank you enough, brother. Enjoy your travels. Be safe.
All right, you too. Have a great March Madness. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you very much. Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. And we are back with more brought to you by Hank's Pizza Mac. And who's your Hank? Easy to get to and find. 812-330-0000. You never thought macaroni and cheese would be a meal, but it is. It's incredible. Check out the multiple dishes and bowls that they have. 7 different flavors or 7 different bowls, macaroni bowls, and pizza as well. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right. Good show today, considering it seemed like there might be difficulties at the beginning of everything. And there ended up not really being any.
They're not difficulties, they're opportunities.
Opportunities to grow and learn.
Opportunities for
we turn the difficulty into opportunity.
For you two to talk.
That's right.
Well, it was a great time. We always have a good time when we have to do a segment or two.
We do. We just make it up as we go, don't we, John?
I do. I am going to make a sounder, though, of every time that we have to do a segment.
That would be outstanding.
Of that Bob Knight quote, saying that's an Emmy winner right there.
That's an Emmy winner right there. You can write Tony all over that one, Peter. I mean, that's a GD Emmy winner right there.
There you go, boy. Right there. There's going to be who's going to be that team tomorrow?
That's a good
tomorrow or today.
Coming back.
Well,
who are we going to be talking about tomorrow for today?
Oh, that's a good question. Ooh, that's a good one to end on. I don't have the list of games up. Let me bring that up.
I think, and I'm talking about ones that people aren't expecting, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Shockers.
I mean, any of the 15s are obviously on the table that play today. Because those are the ones that nobody ever picks, but they happen more often than people expect them to. UNC Asheville and UCLA, don't they play today?
They got this goddamn dumpster right outside my window.
I don't know. Fairleigh Dickinson, when's Purdue game? It's tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow.
Did you see what the coach said during the post game in the locker room after they won against whoever it was?
I did. What? That's going to be interesting. That might be trickier than you think.
He said, Jim. He said the more he watches Purdue, the more he thinks they could beat him. He said, "I want Purdue to see this." Whenever the cameras were in the locker
I thought he
room.
said, "I don't want Purdue to see this."
No, I thought he said, "I want Purdue to see this."
Oh, I don't.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. Good question.
Because that shows the cocky confidence that you need if you think you really are going to beat them.
Well, because they're not. All they are.
Okay. We'll talk. Let's save this.
Here we go. Yeah, we'll come back and talk about Purdue and that chances of Fairleigh Dickinson. But that's not even until that won't happen until tomorrow anyway. So we discussed that on Monday. Speaking of which, Dustin, are you with us? He already knows I'm not going to be here, but are you on tomorrow?
Okay. I'll be in the car.
Jim, I'll try to see if K-Bro wants to do the show with you tomorrow.
Because Gators are done. They got cooked last night.
All right, here we go.
Dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. It is time to tip it off, man. The NCAA tournament, it's ready. Of course, the play-in games been happening for the last 2 days. Kind of an appetizer of sorts. There was at least one good game on the first day, and both games yesterday stunk. Yep. Nevada, Steve Alford bounced. Who was the other game?
Fairleigh Dickinson and Texas Southern. Yes.
Texas Southern, usually a team that makes it in.
They were with Mike Davis.
Yeah. They made it in like several years in a row.
Yeah, I think they made it 4 years in a row under Mike Davis. I don't know if that streak is still alive or not, but they talked about that during that game last night. But Fairleigh Dickinson, I mean, they weren't. I was going to make a joke, but I can't make it on air. Never mind. They weren't messing around. You could probably insert the verb I was going to use instead.
Gino, you are correct, sir. It is the most beautiful time of year, no matter where you are, whatever the temperature is, the forecast, it doesn't matter. It is perfect because the NCAA tournament is upon us. And who is going to be that team tomorrow when we're on here talking? Fred had a great question earlier. If we knew, I'd be making money. I'd be putting bets on it. But tomorrow, when we're back here talking, who's going to be? And it probably won't just be one, but what is that game we're going to be talking about? Someone mentioned Miami and Drake. That's not going to be an upset. I'm thinking Drake might. I'm kind of thinking Drake's going to beat Miami.
Yeah, and that'll be a Friday game too. If you look at today's games, though, in terms of tomorrow, there's 3 I would say keep an eye on. Furman against Virginia. That's a 13-4.
Virginia is the only 1 seed in the history of the tournament to lose to a 16.
And the way they play basketball, I mean, they barely beat Louisville. They can get beat by any team. So Furman is a team that we might talk about. I think College of Charleston has been, I don't want to say they've been ignored, but I think that they are undervalued and underrated. They play San Diego State. I think that's a good matchup for them. And then the other one would be.
I think Charleston is my pick in that game.
Yeah, me too. And then the other one I would keep an eye on is Oral Roberts Duke. We talked with Mike DeCourcy about this on Tuesday. He said if they were playing anybody but Duke, he'd pick Oral Roberts in a 12-5 matchup. So Duke's playing obviously a little bit better, but never know. Oral Roberts can sneak one out. I think those are the 3 games with the best potential to say, did you see that game?
Sandy's already saying,
there we go.
Oral Roberts?
Yep.
Practice? It is. That is shocking to hear.
Well, I mean, they were the 15th seed that went on a run a few years ago. I think it was the COVID year they went on a run, beat Ohio State as a 15th seed, made it to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, I think. Maybe just Sweet 16.
John, Miami doesn't scare him that much. He could see Drake winning. Well, Miami also lost. I think they're going to be without their big guy. So that does not help their cause at all. But yeah, if I could, I wish I could pick these upsets.
We'd be a lot richer.
But and it's all just a guess. Just a guess.
You never, yeah. That's what makes it fun.
And then who's going to just destroy teams? Will all four number one seeds? Will they win easily?
I think so. Their first game, we were talking in the break about the Purdue Fairleigh Dickinson matchup, and John and I disagree on what the head coach, I don't know his name, what he actually said. Whether he was on camera after they won, he either said, "I don't want Purdue to hear this," or "I want Purdue to hear this." But my thing, he thinks that we can beat Purdue. The more I watch him, I think we can beat Purdue, is what he said. And people can debate that, but what do you want him to say? Like, I don't think we can beat Purdue. Wait, what is a coach going to say to his team? Why? I don't understand why that's a storyline.
Who knows?
I'm just
30
saying.
seconds.
I'm just saying. All I say is I don't know why that got blown out of proportion. A coach is not going to say we're going to get blown out by Purdue, so enjoy this while it lasts.
Well, man, we almost went over time today. It went so well. Thanks to you guys for getting it going early on. Thanks to, let's see, Matt Taylor, Chris Denari, Kyler Staley. Huge thanks to Michael Lewis for coming on with us. Did I miss anybody?
No, sir.
Big thanks to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines as always. And most importantly, thanks to you guys. And Shooty Foodie won't be back tomorrow, unfortunately. But we'll see you on Monday, so we'll have plenty to talk to. Thanks to you. And but we're back tomorrow, man. Guys, thank you so much. Looking forward to it. Enjoy the first day of the NCAA tournament. And I'm Jim Coyle. Until tomorrow, I'll see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports.